Hi everyone, it's Christy from Green Eyed Tarot, and today I am here to film a side-by-side comparison of these two decks, the Green Witch Tarot and Tarot of the Witch's Garden. So recently on one of the Facebook groups that I'm in, on one of the tarot face groups, there was a little bit of discussion about the Tarot of the Witch's Garden because it did just come out, so it's fairly new and everyone's sort of gotten their hands on it now and has been using it for a little bit. And so the discussion came up about how the Tarot of the Witch's Garden really didn't do anything new. So there was a lot of people, their opinions were that they were not going to get it because it's really nothing that they haven't seen before. And I definitely can see their points. You know, I see where they're, in terms of where they're discussing like Llewellyn decks and mass market decks in particular. And like I said, these Llewellyn decks, these sort of big box, decks that have very similar themes and they have very similar aesthetics. And so just the discussion being that people were not going to be getting it for various reasons, but one of them being that it wasn't revolutionary, it wasn't anything new or that, had been done, very similar decks. And when I, was first looking at this and determining if I was going to get it, this is the deck that I thought of. The Green Witch Tarot was the one that I thought in my head, was the most similar. And in my head, I thought I have struggled with this deck a little bit over the last, few years, like since I've had it, and really over the last year or so that I've struggled with some of the things, the guidebook, some of just the structure of the deck and the representation and things. So, so I thought it would be neat to sort of look at how different they actually are and also look at the similarities. And just, this is really going to help me determine if this is going to replace this in my collection. Just the way that I am being way more intentional with how I bring decks in and how I let decks go and things like that. I feel like doing this sort of comparison will be really helpful. And like I said, I think it really is going to end up replacing this deck, but I haven't made any decisions yet. So I thought we could just take a side-by-side look and maybe compare some of the guidebook as well. To be quite honest, I have not read through this entire guidebook. I have read through, definitely card meanings in the beginning. I read through the beginning, but I have not read through the whole guidebook. So I can't really give a completely informed commentary on what all the similarities and differences are, but I thought we could even just pull a few cards and read the different excerpts, and that might be helpful. It will be helpful to me, and maybe it'll be helpful for some of you who are thinking of the same thing or who don't have either one of these decks and thinks, hey, maybe I'd like one of these decks. They obviously are very witchy. It doesn't mean you have to be a witch to use or appreciate these decks at all. You can appreciate them and use them for what they are, which is the tarot deck. So you don't have to be a witch or consider yourself a witch or be practicing witchcraft or any of those things. But yeah, so let's just take a look at these two decks side by side, the Green Witch Tarot and Tarot of a Witch's Garden. Okay, so we're jumping right in with the Fool. And the Green Witch Tarot does rename a lot of their cards. I will say that there are, the major arcana has been renamed, a lot of them. So you'll see there's definitely a difference. That's one of those differences immediately. Their Fool is the Green Man, and then we just have the Fool. So, and I don't believe any of the cards in this deck are renamed. If I can remember, I don't think any of them in this deck, the Tarot of Witch's Garden, are renamed at all. But Green Witch definitely renames their major arcana cards in particular. So here we have the Witch and the Magician. And I mean, the Witch, it's a very traditional sort of witchy, a very traditional looking, what we consider witch. To me, it's like a very commercial looking witch. If you have the everyday witch tarot with the hats and the pointy hats, to me, that's it's very kitschy, but I like it. In the Green Witch Tarot, obviously they have their tools, and I apologize for the racing motorcycles outside. It's a beautiful day. My windows are open, so I apologize for the noise. But To me, this is a more traditional looking, obviously, magician. And that all the tools are on the table. The astrological symbols are around the table. I sort of love that. This one has like the salt circle, around her. I feel like the Green Witch is definitely more witchy and like witchcraft practices and things. So if you're not a witch or you don't have knowledge of that may be lost. It may be lost on you. Like if you're using this deck is the best way I can describe it. Just because it's not something that you studied, practiced, that you have knowledge of, because it's not your interest and you don't consider yourself a witch. To me, this is definitely obviously more traditional. Now, both of these decks also feature like plants. This is obviously Tarot of a Witch's Garden. So, it talks about herbs and things that you would see in a witch's garden. And then the Green Witch, same way. It does, focus heavily on plants and herbs and things. So every card has an herb. And in the guidebook, they talk about that. The guidebook of Tarot of a Witch's Garden also does. So that's a similarity. The way they talk about it may be a little different, but that's definitely a similarity. So the High Priestess is the same in terms of the name of the card. Again, pretty traditional looking. I do think the High Priestess and the Witch in this card are really similar. To me, they give off similar vibes. I love the High Priestess in Tarot of a Witch's Garden. And I think just like right off the bat, we're like on card number 3. And you can see a big difference. One glaringly obvious difference between these is that there is diversity within the Tarot of a Witch's Garden. So there are different skin tones, and you can tell there's different cultures and ethnicities being represented. Just even in just the tools, like you see this, it's like a sickle. I know there's like another name for it. The sickle is like the giant one you use to harvest grain. But just even the patterns in the pillows, like to me, that's evocative of, maybe a Middle Eastern, motif, or, just the colors and the patterns and things. If you're really looking at a card, that makes a difference in terms of how you're interpreting it. And to me, that all sort of points towards diversity. Whereas the Green Witch Tarot is it's very Caucasian. It's very one color. It's very European white. And sort of the landscapes and things like that as you go through it. So if diversity is something you're looking for, the Green Witch Tarot is not going to give that to you. And so that is one of the big, comparisons I can make. So one of the reasons I was excited about Tarot of the Witch's Garden is because it does include that diversity of like landscapes and colors and patterns and cultures and skin tones that the Green Witch does not have. And that's, one of the I like this card with all the animals. This card has animals in it as well, and it definitely, this figure in the card seems more ethnically diverse to me. And the Horned God, that's I will say the Green Witch Tarot leans very Wiccan in my opinion. So a lot of the concepts, a lot of what's talked about in the guidebook referring to the craft and just different themes, it seems very Wiccan and related to the Wiccan religion. And because I am not Wiccan, I'm familiar with some of the principles and some of the tenets and, concepts that are related to the Wiccan religion, but I don't consider myself Wiccan. I never have. And so that's sort of lost on me. And it's one of those things that becomes a little distracting for me, with this deck. But I do love this Hierophant quite a bit. I love that it's an older female, wisdom, this one very traditional, like older man, male figure. But I do love this. And I love the book, which says Secret Garden on it. Which is neat. It's like those little details, that we see. So these, again, very traditional lover's card. This is called The Lady and the Lord. Again, to me, leans very Wiccan, is more towards the Wiccan religion. And I could be wrong because I'm really not, that knowledgeable about it. But to me, that's referring to it as the craft and things. So here we have the battle wagon and the chariot. Again, really traditional. Again, there's a male representing figure and a female looks like representing figure. I like the moon phases on this one. So I think it comes down to diversity. Now, I love both of these. I love that this one's called the crone. I love that for strength. I must say, I do love the crone, and it's probably one of my favorite cards in the Green Witch deck. I do love this bear family, and in the guidebook they talk about, there's a basket of blueberries. It talks about a blueberry patch. It's very narrative, the Tarot of the Witch's Garden. It draws you in, sort of like the Forest of Enchantment tarot. It draws you into this world, which is always nice. So here we have the Holly King and the Hermit. And again, the Holly King to me is a very witchcraft, sort of, to me it leans even like towards druidry and things like that. So it is very heavily into the witch. This to me reminds me more of like an eclectic witch or a solitary witch, the Tarot of the Witch's Garden. And I feel like it definitely doesn't have to be used like and related anyway to witchcraft. And I feel like you could definitely use this one. This to me is a little bit more difficult. If you're not a witch and don't identify and don't practice witchcraft, to me this deck it's a little bit more difficult. And that may be why a lot of people don't have this deck, don't have the Green Witch Tarot, because they thought to themselves, well, that's not how I identify, and it's not something that I would be interested in. And that would make sense to me. So here we have the Wheel of the Year. Again, a very spiritually focused theme for this card. And here again, just the Wheel of Fortune. So that's the same. That hasn't been renamed. Here we have the Standing Stone and Justice. Now let's all remember the infamous misprint on this deck. So Justice is numbered at 10, so we know that that's not correct. So yeah, so we understand that we have a little bit of a of a problem with the numbering. I just put them in the right order so that they would correspond together. So so we have Justice, which is number 11, but it's number 10 in Tarot of a Witch's Garden. Here we have Harm None, again part of the Wiccan read. Again, it reads very Wiccan to me. Here we have a diversity. She looks like very strong. I sort of like the muscles, the defined muscles on this figure. I just do like the depictions in this deck. Here we have the Oak King again, the Holly King and the Oak King, a very, very specific theme, related more to witchcraft. And we have the Hanged Woman. So some of the things that I'm having a little bit of a trouble with Tarot of the Witch's Garden is the genderizing of a lot of the language in the guidebook, and I'll kind of talk about specific cards. I don't see the need for genderizing, the cards, like Hanged Woman. I personally don't feel like that's necessary. I find it distracting, but it's the way it is. So here we have the Lord of Shadows and Death. So I do like this card, this Lord of Shadows. It's very, and then there's like the butterfly. I do like the imagery in this with the Green Witch Tarot. I like this one too, though, with the pumpkins and you see the person grieving and sort of the person offering something, sort of like that death is not always something to be feared, but it's something that you can welcome in. The idea of death, not necessarily physical death. So I like both of those. And here we have the She, which is a really cool name for temperance, I think. I think this is I like the way the Green Witch plays with this card, in both the title and the imagery. But I do love this temperance card. I think it's gorgeous. Again, it's just the ripples in the water, the way that this artist depicts water and the flowiness of the clothing and just the hair. I love like the streak in the front of her hair. I don't know. I love that temperance card. Again, some diversity, which is always good to see. Here we have Nature. Again, like a very interesting way to depict this card, and the guidebook does give a lot of insight into this. And of course, the devil. Pretty traditional looking devil's card there. The Wild Hunt, of course, the Tower. I do like the way I really like the depiction of this with the children sort of in a treehouse that's really precariously perched on this tree. Looks like not a very solid foundation, not a great spot for a treehouse. But these little badgers like holding, and this little fairy, it looks like holding something to catch them to break their fall. I like that. I like that what that sort of says to me. Here we have the star. Again, pretty traditional in both aspects. Pretty traditional imagery. Again, I do love the flowing, just the draping on the clothing, and then the water. I like the artwork in Tarot of a Witch's Garden. It's gorgeous. I mean, the artist is a very talented artist. She's the artist who did Compendium of Witches, which I love. I do love the moon card. I do love this moon card in the Green Witch Tarot. This is very traditional, but I do love this sort of more non-traditional. Just the shadowy aspect in this one, and sort of the journey, like the person looks like they're on a journey. They have a walking stick, and like I like how the trees are obscuring the moon, but the moon has a kind face in this. So I do like that card. I feel like it would be interesting to pull out my favorites between the two and then just make one deck. That would be interesting. So here we have the sun. Again, I like the image in the Green Witch. This very traditional. The small children or babies, on white horses and lots of flowers and sunflowers. But I do like this, where there's no people in it. I do like this sort of abundance, the feeling of abundance you get, and just joy, with that sun shining. I do like that in the Green Witch Tarot. Here we have 20 is Harvest and Judgment. So again, I do kind of like this depiction. I like non-traditional depictions. Like, even though these are pretty much Rider-Waite-Smith-esque, like Rider-Waite-Smith clones, this one I feel like more so than this. But the Green Witch, I like the way they depict certain cards. So yeah, I do like this for the Judgment card. And here we have the World Tree. Again, very earthy, no people. It's very different than the world, this very traditional depiction of the world. I do like the symmetry between the Wheel of Fortune card and this card. I do like that in this deck, how it ties it together. But I like the Green Witch Tarot for that. All right, so now we're into the wands. So the Ace of Wands, again, very traditional in both aspects. I do like the wand in this, in that it's a wand, an actual wand like tool. I mean, this is a wand too. To me, it looks more like a torch. But I do love this, and just the colors in this one, they're both beautiful. I think I just like the use of the plants in that respect. And it is the Green Witch Tarot, so that's going to play, obviously. Here we have the Two of Wands. Again, very traditional here. This one not as traditional. So yeah, there's not a lot of similarities to me. I don't feel that there's as many as there are differences. So we have a Three of Wands. I like this one with the lotus and sort of the open hands. And this one, like the ship is holding three. Like, it looks like it could almost be swords. Just really different. Here's your Four of Wands. Again, a little different. You feel the celebratory aspect of this one. This one is not as in your face. This one's a little bit more subtle in the Greenwich Tarot, I think. Here we have the Five of Wands. I like this. There's birds, you know, sort of fighting over worms. I like that depiction. Although this one is, you know, like, looks like students, like, you know, definitely like younger, you know, sort of just learning. Like they have like their book and they're like, looks like they're talking about like, okay, like it's like a strategy. There's like a strategizing going on, and there's sort of, you know, that healthy like competition of classmates. But I do like the birds fighting over the worms. We have the Six of Wands, again, very traditional. You know, I like that we've changed it up a little bit in this one from Tarot of the Witch's Garden. This is like very traditional with the helmets, like the army, you know, paying homage and sort of the accolades. Seven of Wands. Again, very different depictions. I like the moon phases right here. Up here in the window, there's a little bird. Yeah, I think, like I said, I think there's more differences than there are similarities. Here we have Eight of Wands. Again, very different. You know, in terms of the way that the artists are depicting these and trying to convey card meanings. Nine of Wands. I like this. I like this, like her ripped pants, the scratches on her face. I do like this card. I like the look on his face though here. So, yeah. Really trying not to give like too many opinions and just like kind of showcasing them next to each other. Here we have the Ten of Wands. I like the imagery here, the squirrel and the fox. Like, I like that they both have sort of an animal companion. I do like this. It's a little bit more intimate, which I like. Here we have the pages. So a very, very young page here. One that seems a little bit older. You have the Knight of Wands. Very similar. There I see a lot of similarities. Queen. Again, I like the older, like the depiction of sort of an older person. But I see, you know, the diversity in this one, and even just the tattoos. They almost look like henna, maybe like henna tattoos, and the flame in her lap. Just her bone structure. I like to see the differences in the faces if we're really looking. King of Wands. And, you know, and again, too, some gender ambiguity. Like, I like that there to be that openness, that possibility that makes it so that you can sort of read it however you want. So sort of gender fluid, you know, a feeling of it being a little bit gender fluid. And that, you know, like I said, that freedom, you know, that freedom to be able to look at the cards and just make up your own mind. You know, I guess you could really do that with any cards. You really, you know, can, but the imagery does help. I love this. You know, the imagery used in tarot cards does help, you know, with that, you know, which is why, aside from representation, you know, I feel like probably one of the reasons that people look for diversity in their decks, you know, and having that, it not be such a box, you know, with a very like narrow, you know, representation, but being able to, I love this Two of Cups card. I love it. Anyway, but being able to, you know, to have that imagery to broaden your mind, you know. Here we have very similar. These are very similar. Look at these. Oh my gosh. They're like same like colors. And again, you know, here definitely a little bit more diverse. Not much, but, you know, you definitely can see there is some diversity. Here it's like a brown-haired woman, a redhead woman, and a blonde-haired woman, and they're all relatively light-skinned. And but so there's some diversity, at least more than, so I believe, than the Green Witch. Here we have the 4s. I like this. This one just seems so happy and thrilled, like, to be offering, and this one just wants no part of it. Very apathetic. To me, this one just doesn't, I guess boredom. That's a good look on her face. Here we have the 5 of Cups. I like this. I like the spirals. Again, very earthy, but I do like this too. There's just like a desolate feeling with that one. The landscape. And here we have the 6 of Cups, chalices in the Green Witch Tarot. The 6 of Cups, I definitely like this. And this is one of those things that came up with me for the guidebook in Tarot of the Witch's Garden. So the 6 of Cups, and I'll try to find it really quick and just like sort of read the little blurb from it that's in here. So it says the 6 of Cups reveals 2 fairy creatures tucked away in a subterranean chamber beneath the garden. A pillbug offers a comfortable seat to a fairy boy while millipedes chug by like fleshy steam trains. And then it says a female fairy gazes upon the gift. Now, for me, I felt it was really unnecessary to assign genders to these 2 fairy creatures. So that's one of the things, like when I pulled this card and I went to the guidebook just to see what it said about the card, and I was really interested in like the beets growing with the like little roots, and I thought it was really unnecessary to assign genders to these creatures, because fairies, and to me it's a very non-gendered type of energy, like fae energy and fairy energy. To me, they're such, they're magical and fantastical creatures, and I just feel like, it was definitely not necessary. And that's my opinion. It definitely struck me. I was like, why do we have to say a fairy boy is sitting on a pillbug? Like, it just, to me, it didn't need to be reiterated. To me, the 6, if we wanted to do something different and move away from it, it doesn't need to be a little boy and a little girl, or, I get duality and energy and yin and yang and those polarities, but there's other ways to demonstrate those things without having to gender creatures. Like I said, this is my opinion, but to me it seemed very unnecessary. So that's one of those things that does bother me. It did bother me, and there's more than one guidebook entry that does that, but that one really stuck out to me. This is one of my favorite 7 of Cups, so this one is definitely going to, in terms of a head-to-head with these 2 cards, that 7 of Cups is going to win. It's absolutely gorgeous. Just the look on her face, and she's holding this like lavender plant in her hand, and I just absolutely love it. I love the head wrap, like her head scarf, and just her dress. Like I said, I love the clothing and like the way clothing's depicted in this deck, and the way it was, the artistry of it. Here we have an 8 of Cups. This one obviously very traditional. I love that the eclipse is, you can see the eclipse is front and center. It's very prominent in this card. Just gonna speed it up a little bit because we're gonna be here all day. Here we have the 9 of Cups. This one's really interesting. It's sort of like a sea creature, like a selkie, like a water creature. I'm not sure if in the guidebook it says that it's a selkie, but maybe just a water sprite or a water spirit. I definitely like that sort of that watery energy with the cups. To me, this one is very fiery, which is fine. To me, this like is giving me wands vibes, not so much cups, but I do understand sort of where it's going with that. And here we have the 10. So here's a perfect example of of diversity, because you can read this card however you like. If this could be any gender representation or sexual orientation, or however you want to see this card. It could be really anything. This, not so much. There's really no room to. This is a very cisgender, you know, looking like very, what is seen as like the traditional, not me, just in general representation. Not how I feel is traditional, but this one definitely represents, more of what I'd like to see in this type of card. If you're going to do the rainbow with the cups, like that's been overdone. That's been definitely done. At least, add some, like I said, freedom to interpret this card and be able to look at it and say, you know what I mean? And see some differences and see some diversity in the makeup of that card. Page of Cups. I like this. Again, to me, let's look at the Page of Cups really quick. I'm going to look up the guidebook entry because, like I said, I have not gone through this entire guidebook, so I can't say, oh yeah, I remember what the write-up is. I'm just very curious about this Page of Cups from the Tarot of the Witch's Garden. The Page of Cups appears from a splashing puddle in the midst of spring rainfall. Does the page imagine the jumping fish, or is it a happy surprise? Cheerful yellow marsh marigolds, forest green lily pads, and a sleepy old toad gather around this dreamy page. The Page of Cups reflects the childlike quality of wonder. It is the delight in one's own imagination and remarkable intuitive ability. Page energy reflects the childlike essence and the dream state. So this is very interesting to me. So this Page of Cups, there's no gender mentioned at all. It doesn't say it's a boy or male creature, sea creature, or, a female, creature. So again, this is fabulous because there's no gender assigned. They're not genderizing this in any way. There's no feminine, masculine energy, nothing like that assigned to this creature that's coming from the water. And so that's great. Why couldn't we do that with the two fairies that we saw, on the other card? So some consistency with that I would have liked to see that. Here we have the Knight of Cups. I do absolutely adore this Knight of Cups. Something about this horse that looks like it's part of the forest and like green. I love it. And I love that like this figure has like half of the armor off, like the armor's off, and just looks so happy and satisfied and content with this like feeling of love, but not necessarily have to be love of another being. Maybe love of self-love. Here we have the Queen of Cups. Again, very traditional. I like this one. Like it's sort of a creature. They like I love like how these figures in this cup suit have like amphibian like ears, like sort of not amphibian. Yeah, I guess amphibian. Like, I don't know. They look like gills. They look almost like fish. Or reptilian. I don't know. Something like that. Here we have the King of Cups. I absolutely cannot stand this King of Cups in the Green Witch Tarot. Something about his face. I don't know. I can't stand it. So I do like this King of Cups. He's like a very weird shade of like greenish, bluish, like ocean, which is cool. Here we have the Ace of Swords. I do love this with all the wildflowers coming off of it. Two of Swords. This very non-traditional representation. This obviously very traditional, but I love the Two of Swords and I love when it's a depiction like this. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that traditional RWS imagery. Threes. So here we have, the Three of Swords, the heart with the three. It's been overdone. We know, like, it's been overdone. So, this is definitely, I like this depiction just because it's departure from this. I mean, it's a departure from this. I do think, like, the hair spread out, this sort of agonizing posture is, I like that it's, like, really depicting that in this card. It's definitely, like, you can feel it, but the pierced heart has been overdone. Here we have the Four of Swords. I love this one. I love it. Just with the cat curled up and I just love it. Again, the hair draping, just, she does look so peaceful. And like the flowing gown. Again, I like the way the clothing is depicted in this deck. The Five of Swords. I love this one. I do love this. I like this scene being played out. It's very like, I really like it. This one, not so much. I don't know. Something about their facial expressions. Six of Swords, pretty traditional. I like this. I do like this. Like this cloaked figure is very hooded figure. And she's like, the sword's like levitating sort of above her hands. Sort of, I like that idea of being like in control of your like destiny. I like that it's pointing towards that way and she's facing that way. Yeah, I like that. Here we have the Seven of Swords. I like this for this depiction of deception. You know, she's got that look on her face like, you know, I'm not getting caught, you know, or maybe is there some guilt? Like I feel guilty for what I'm doing. This one, I don't get the same sort of feelings. I'm not getting that feeling of like deception or lying or, yeah. Here we have the Eight of Swords. I like both of these. I do like the way she's sort of levitating. And I think this person has some like body, like a body, a different type of body. I can't tell if it's their arm. They're missing like a part of their arm. Yeah, I can't tell if it's like just behind their back or if it's missing, but if so, then that's, you know, that's good representation for different types of abilities and disabilities and what, you know, just body representation. Here we have the Nine. Again, very traditional. I like this. I like the moon streaming in here, but I like this like the beehive attacking this figure, and like the hands are up. I don't know. I like it. I like that depiction. Here we have the Tens, very traditional RWS. This, you know, is different. You know, it's a very different depiction than this. So that's, you know, that's definitely not the same. There's big difference there. Here we have the Page. I do love this page with the little owl and the moon. I love her energy in this. She just looks so confident. Even if she's, you know, young and like, you know, doesn't know so much, she just looks so confident. I do like this too. Again, gender fluidity. There's no genderization. You're free to interpret this and have it be representative of what you want. It's not distracting. It's allowing, you know, for freedom and space. Here we have the Knight of Swords. Love that. Very airy feeling. The Queen. I love this Queen. Love it. Again, some diversity. Yeah. The King of Swords. Love the owl. Love that stone, sort of like solid stone, but like still very like obviously clouds and up in the sky. You know, this one's not giving me the same type of sort of airy, that air energy. I don't feel that air energy in this as much as I do here. Here we have the Pentacles. I love the Pentacle suit. I do like this. I like this one, but I think I like that one better with the gate and then like the home in the distance. The Two of Pentacles, very similar energies. Those two are very, very alike. Here we have the Three. I love this. Love this. Just love the, is that a groundhog? A groundhog with his like plans. Like he's got a pencil behind his ear. He's a monocle. Like he's just hard at work there. He's got his plans. He's like supervising. Like make sure you do it. Like make sure she's following, you know, those plans. And I like that. I really like that Three of Pentacles. Here we have the Four. I like this as just that stone part of the earth. So earthy, this one. This one I definitely, I get the feeling here, like this person locked out, you know, sort of being miserly and unlocking people out. I just like this more earthy. Doesn't necessarily have to be hoarding resources as it is being prudent with our resources. This to me, like, it just gives me like more like greedy vibes, like greedy and miserly vibes. This one I can see more. More depth than that one for me, for that meaning. Five of Pentacles, very traditional for both. I feel like those are very traditional, you know, images. The snow, the very snowy, the stark landscape. There's sort of that glow in this stone circle. I think that's a stone circle, or it could be people gathered in a circle. But yeah, I definitely see, you know, very traditional images. Here we have the Six of Pentacles. I do like this one. I do like the way this is depicted. The balance of scales. And just sort of like this pleading, you know, and looks like a benevolent, you know, a benefactor, you know, being able to help. Seven of Pentacles. To me, these are very similar. I like this. I like her witchy, sort of her witchy gardening outfit. I like that she has cards. She's pulled some cards, you know, for some direction maybe. She's very lost in thought. She's focused, you know. I like that. The Eight of Pentacles. I do like this. I really do like this sort of the work of making these wreaths. These very, very witchy, very earthy wreaths. And then you have like the fairies helping. I like that, like the community feel of that one. Oh my God, I love the Nine of Pentacles. It's one of my favorite cards in a tarot deck. And I do absolutely adore this. Her dress, just her, I like the wine is there. You know, she's just really reaping all those benefits and reaping what she sowed. And she's got her, you know, her hawk or her falcon, you know, there. She's wearing the glove, like the falconry glove. And I just love her dress. It's so exotic, and it reminds me of like India, like, you know, deep in the heart of India. That's what I love about Tarot of a Witch's Garden. Like I said, it's not even just the racial and the ethnic like difference. It's just that cultural, you know, differences in just the textures and the textiles and the fabrics. And again, the landscapes. Here we have a 10, you know, pretty traditional. There's, you know, some racial diversity. I like the 8, you know, the age. I like that her cloak seems to have like zodiac symbols on it, which I like. It's just a really nice image, a nice happy image. To me, this is a little bit, you know, more, again, not diverse. Here we have the Page. I do love this little dog, but I love this little figure with this flower hat on, flower bonnet. I mean, it's just so cute. It's just so cute and earthy. Okay, I'm having trouble picking up these last cards. Love the Knight of Pentacles. I like both of these, but I do like this. I really like this one with like the bison, the buffalo. Again, like she appears to be a little bit older, different facial features. You know, like I said, just things like that, like different bone structure on faces. Like, to me, it matters. Like, I want to see unique and different faces, you know? I want them to look different, and not just like skin color or you know, but different hair textures and different, like I said, facial makeup and bone structures. I love the Queen of Pentacles. I do like this because it appears to be a little bit of an older person. You know, this one too is really beautiful just because of the earthy energy. It's really got like an Empress vibe. To me, like this one and the Empress in this deck are very similar. And then we have the King. So again, some diversity. You know, in the Tarot of a Witch's Garden, you know, you definitely can feel, even like I said, just the dress, the manner of dress. I like that, you know, there's horns, like some kind of creature, a forest creature that's literally like part of the forest. But you can see the abundance here. And this creature looks very satisfied and content with themselves. So does this one, but this one's like a portly gentleman he looks like he's not a nice person. I don't know how to describe it, but I like this one. So that's the side-by-side comparison of the Green Witch Tarot and Tarot of a Witch's Garden. I think, definitely there's a lot of differences. So I think I'm surprised to see how many differences there are. Obviously the card stock's different. Tarot of a Witch's Garden has this linen, the new linen card stock. They're the same exact size, I think, for the most part. Nope, Green Witch is, no, they're exactly, well, a little bit. No, they're pretty much the same size. So this has the new linen cardstock on it. It's really nothing that special, I don't think. I feel like, it shuffles fine. It's, to me, it's nothing great. It's not like high quality linen cardstock. This isn't like your superior, like playing card linen, cardstock, but it's definitely different. I was okay with the linen cardstock, like the linen cardstock, the traditional Llewellyn, like this, the Green Witch. I was okay with this too. So, but I was surprised to see how many differences there were. So I feel like I could make the argument, and I could be wrong, and this is just my opinion, but I feel like I could make the argument that this is different and it really hasn't been done. I mean, the theme, yes, we have plenty of decks with themes like this. Look at the Forest of Enchantment. It's very similar to these two decks. So there's a lot of decks with very similar themes. But in terms of the representation, the way the cards are depicted, that's definitely different. And in these more mass market, traditionally witchy type decks that are like, very narrative and they're like RWS clones, like we haven't seen, that diversity in these types of these Llewellyn decks and the US games. And, we're seeing more and more of it, definitely. More so than 5 years ago, absolutely. But I feel that, the argument can be made that there is enough of a difference in this Tarot of the Witch's Garden and the way it was done, that I can see myself using this more than I will the Green Witch anymore. The Green Witch is problematic for me. It has been for a little while, so I haven't been using it. And I thought it would be good to just pull a card from the deck. And I probably shouldn't have shuffled them because I kind of wanted to see the meanings, like the same cards. And just kind of see how the guidebook interprets the card. Because I feel like if you're someone who does use the guidebook, that's going to be important. That's going to be an important factor as well. In how you, if you're going to use, the deck and how you relate to the deck. So I think it's important, to kind of review the guidebook too and consider that, as part of it. If you're someone who doesn't really use guidebooks, anymore, then it really may not be, may not be something that you have to consider. But I feel like, if it does play into how you're going to use the deck, then, definitely consider it. So I have the Seven of Swords. So I'm going to read the Seven of Swords from the Green Witch guidebook. So let's get to the swords. Where are they? They're Athames. Okay. So Seven of Athames from the Green Witch. This card indicates that prudent planning brings success despite opposition to plans. There are dangers in the lonely forest, but the hunter's mental alertness and courage see him through. He has a sense of calm and humor that allows nothing to deter him. He is a good provider, and the woman in the doorway stands with ladle in hand and a fire ready for cooking, for she knows the hunter will succeed. Okay, pause. I already have a problem with this. And I'm sure you might be able to guess what it is. A clever approach to challenges to one's plans will overcome resistance. Self-reliance is also suggested, with the understanding that one cannot depend on others to clear the way for new ideas and new approaches to problems. Self-confidence and strategy show the mental acuity and perception that will see a plan through to completion. This is a card of using tactical skills to surmount any blockages to one's plans. Diplomacy and creative thinking may be factors, but the emphasis is on indirect action rather than confrontation. And then it says ferns represent confidence, defense, security, and well-being. Meaning, using strategy and creativity, self-confidence, diplomacy, tact, success through perseverance, creative action, new plans, fortitude, cunning, guile, clever approach to opposition. And it says the reversed is betrayal, timid, fearful, delayed action, prompt words or strategy, and clever approach. So like I said, I find the card in general to be problematic for me. Just the idea that the what looks like a male hunter is alert and he's courageous and he is, he's a good provider, and the woman in the doorway stands with ladle in hand and a fire ready for cooking. So we can already see where the problem might lie with that, at least for me. It's the misogyny is there, that the woman is waiting with the ladle. Why can't the woman be the hunter? So that's problematic for me. And again, it's going to be related to when that deck was made. Obviously, I know it was created in a different time, but I don't think it was that long ago. So, all right. So now we have the Seven of Swords from Tarot of the Witch's Garden. It says Moon in Aquarius, so it does give you zodiacal information. Escape quick as intrigues spin. Time your plan, it must begin. Move with care, the sequestered plan. Avoid suspicion's dangerous fan. The Seven of Swords appears to represent the multiple realities of an escape plan. Dual crows observe and call to the figure from above. They reflect an inner sense of morality and the knowledge that everything you do is seen by the eyes of the universe. You may think you're getting away with something, but are you? Everyone pays off their karmic debts. Your secret plan may not pan out. Weigh the risks before proceeding. The secret of the Seven of Swords is the magical power of taking only what is needed. Editing is important. The figure looks behind her. Is she obsessed with the past? Is she motivated by old ghosts or integrating what is happening in the now? Does she strike out on her own because she needs to, or does she shun the company of others? The most important aspect of this card is to understand one's own motivations in order to ensure success. Upright, getting away with it, moving under the cover of darkness, taking what you need, escaping without being seen, a secret worth protecting, willing to risk it all. The reversed is greed and wanting everything for the self. An idea will backfire, losing everything gained. It says to write the reversal, ask, how can I reassess? So I really like that Sasha Graham has included to write the reversal. I like it. I read reversals in my cards. Like, I don't read them in the deck necessarily. I just read the reverse meaning as being always part of that energy of that card. And so when I pull the card and I think, yeah, like I'm feeling the reversed energy, like I know what's happening. I know what situation I'm asking about. And even if I don't always have a clear picture, I have an idea of what the universe is trying to tell me. And so I will use to write the reversal, how can I reassess? And then I'll pull another card or two to clarify. So I really love that that's included. And I definitely resonate more with the meaning from this. To me, the Green Witch is a little confusing. To me, it doesn't really resonate with what I see that Seven of Swords is representing. About tactical strategies. I don't really read that card this way. I do read it as sort of thinking, but I read the Seven of Swords as sort of a distorted view or distorted thinking, like irrational thinking, or like trying to rationalize decisions. So the one in this book didn't really resonate with me, and like I said, that entry was problematic. It's been a while since I've used this deck, so I haven't been in the guidebook, so I don't remember exactly everything that's in the guidebook, obviously, but that entry in itself is very problematic for me. And it's definitely leaning towards that I'm going to end up rehoming the Green Witch Tarot, and just, using Tarot of the Witch's Garden in its place. Because I feel like this is more representative of what I'm looking for in this type of deck. This resonates more with me. I really love the artwork. I love the imagery. And it just is, from where I am right now, even in just my practice, like my personal spiritual practice, this is definitely more in line with what I'm looking for and what I would like in this type of deck and the energy. This again, it's just very problematic for me, and that's my opinion. I know people love this deck and have had it for a long time. It's been around a long time. So, I'm not begrudging anyone who loves this deck. This is my opinion. This is strictly based on my opinion and my views and my feelings. I'm just trying to look at, so this says copyright 2015 on my Green Witch Tarot. And I don't know if that's correct, but if that's like this edition or if it came out before that, I don't know. I'd have to look that up. Fifth printing. It says fifth printing 2019. No, copyright 2015. So, friends, that's not that long ago. 2015. Granted, it was like, what, 8 years ago now? But it's not that long ago. And, so that's a problem. I mean, that's a problem for me. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to go on and on about it, but those are my thoughts, and take them or leave them. If anything resonated with you, great. If you disagree with me, even better. You can let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed. Please, if you haven't liked this video, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And again, please share your thoughts on both of these decks. If you don't have them, either one of them, if you have both of them, if you're thinking of this one and you're not sure, I'd love to hear about it. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye.